Someone wronged you. Maybe it was a friend who betrayed you. Maybe it was an ex who lied. Maybe it was a family member who hurt you in a way that still echoes years later. And in the moment after the wrong, in the weeks after, in the long stretch where you're deciding what to do with it, you arrive at one of two places. Either you step back and let the world handle them in its own time, or you decide you will be the one who handles them. The two choices look identical from outside. They are completely different inside. Both have a psychology. Almost nobody talks about either. If you've ever been wronged by someone significant in your life and watched yourself, weeks or months later, settle into one of these two orientations, you've been making a psychological choice that has more downstream consequence than almost any other choice you make about a relationship. The choice isn't between strong and weak. It isn't between justice and weakness. It's between two real ways the human mind handles being hurt by another person, each with its own logic, its own research base, and its own quiet cost. Understanding which one you run and what it's actually doing to you is the first step to choosing it instead of just defaulting into it. The first type is the one most people misread. They've been wronged. They had every right to retaliate. They could have made phone calls, sent messages, spoken to mutual friends, taken actions that would have measurably hurt the person who hurt them. They didn't. From outside, this looks like passivity, weakness, or naivete. From inside, it's something else entirely. They've made a calculation, often without naming it, about what the rest of their life is going to be made of. They've decided not to spend any more of it on the person who already took something from them. Psychologist Robert Enright, who has spent decades studying forgiveness, documented something that most cultural framings of this trait miss. Forgiveness isn't moral elevation. It isn't being a better person. It's a cost reduction strategy. The energy required to track a wrong, plan a response, monitor the other person's life, and feel satisfaction at their eventual downfall is significant. The people who step back aren't being saintly. They're refusing to keep paying a debt that wasn't theirs to begin with. There's a rarer version of type 1 that goes further. Not only do they step back, they actually hope nothing bad happens to the person who hurt them. They don't want the karma to find them. They want the cycle to end at themselves, not continue through anyone else, including the person they have every right to be angry at. This isn't denial of what happened. They remember clearly. It's a specific developmental position, a recognition that they don't want to be part of a world where the people who hurt them suffer for it, even if the suffering would feel briefly satisfying. The research literature on this is small but real. Most people don't reach it. Some do, often through years of quietly choosing the smaller version of the same orientation over and over again. The second type is the one most cultures secretly admire, even when they pretend not to. They've been wronged. They will not let it go. They will spend whatever it takes, months, years, in some cases decades, making sure the person who wronged them feels the consequence directly, traceably, and unmistakably. This isn't psychopathy. It isn't villainy. It's a documented psychological orientation that psychologist Michael McCullough has studied extensively. McCullough's research found that revenge serves an evolutionary function. It deters future wrongs. It signals to the broader social environment that wronging this person comes with a cost. It is not, by itself, irrational. What McCullough's research also documented, though, is the cost the avenger pays. The person planning revenge suffers measurably more than the target. They ruminate longer. They sleep worse. They report lower life satisfaction for years after the original wrong. The target may suffer briefly when the revenge lands. The avenger has been suffering the entire time the revenge was being planned. This is the part the cultural admiration for revenge usually leaves out. Picture this. Two people, both wronged by the same kind of betrayal, 5 years later. The first one barely remembers the details. They had to think for a moment to recall the person's full name. They've spent the 5 years building their own life, and the wrong has shrunk in the way all things shrink when they stop getting fed attention. The second one remembers everything. They could tell you the date. They could tell you what was said. They could tell you what they did about it, what they're still doing about it, what they plan to do in the next phase. They've spent the same 5 years, and a significant portion of those 5 years has been spent inside the wrong rather than outside it. From the outside, the first one looks like they got over it, and the second one looks like they're still suffering. From inside, both are reports on a choice each one made about what their 5 years were going to be spent on. The thread that connects the two types is rumination, the documented psychological process of repeatedly turning over a past event in your mind. Psychologist Susan Nolan-Hoxhamer's research established rumination as one of the most reliable predictors of depression, anxiety, and long-term psychological distress in the wronged party literature. Type 2 ruminates by design. The planning is the rumination. Type 1 has either lower baseline rumination or has done the harder work of reducing it deliberately. The two types aren't different in how badly they were hurt. They're different in how much of the rest of their life they let the hurt occupy. Now, let's be honest, none of this means revenge is always wrong, or that stepping back is always right. There are situations where consequences need to be pursued, where someone is actively harming others, where silence enables continued harm, where the right response to a wrong is genuine accountability through whatever channel reaches it. The reframe in this video applies to the personal psychology of choosing what to carry inside yourself, not to the question of whether public accountability is sometimes necessary. If the person who wronged you is still wronging other people, stepping back isn't peace, it's complicity. The honest version of Type 1 is the one that knows the difference. But for the personal version of this choice, the question of what you carry inside yourself about something done to you, here's what's actually happening. You're not choosing between justice and weakness. You're choosing between two ways of spending the rest of your own life. Type 1 spends it on themselves. Type 2 spends a significant portion of it on the person who wronged them. Both choices are understandable. The cost is just different. Type 1 pays the cost of letting something unresolved sit in the world. Type 2 pays the cost of carrying the wrong inside themselves until they discharge it, which is often longer than they expected. The work isn't to become one type or the other through willpower. The work is to recognize which type you've been defaulting into, what it's been costing you, and whether the cost is one you still want to pay. There's something quietly true about being wronged. The wrong itself happens once. Everything after that is what you do with it, and what you do with it shapes the next 5, 10, or 30 years of your life, more than the original wrong ever did. The person who hurt you cost you what they cost you in the moment. The version of you that holds the wrong for the next decade costs you everything the holding consumes. If you've spent years quietly running one of these two orientations without naming it, this might be the moment to consider that the orientation isn't who you are. It's what you've been doing. You can do something different. The decision about what to carry is, in the end, the one part of being wronged that nobody else gets to make for you. You're not weak if you stepped back. You're not broken if you didn't. You're someone who has been quietly making one of the most consequential choices a person makes about a relationship. And recognizing the choice you've been making is the first step to making it deliberately instead of by default. If you want more videos that name what your mind is actually doing when you thought you were just being yourself, that's the whole Silent Awareness project. Subscribe and the bell so the next one finds you.